Hello and welcome to 7th Week Council. A couple of announcements before we begin. We are not intending to use microphones in this council because we're in this smaller space all facing each other unless people request otherwise. If anyone would like to request that they themselves use a microphone or that other people in the room use a microphone at any point, please just raise that as a point of order with the chair. As a reminder, in council before you speak, we ask please that you give your name, college and pronouns. So I would say, I'm Sam Banks, I'm from Merton College and I use he, him pronouns. I'm the chair of council this term. We've got elections coming up later. Another couple of points to highlight is that we are going to be publishing the voting data from this week's council for all elections which are not conducted by secret ballot. Elections are automatically by secret ballot. If you wish for any other votes to be conducted by secret ballot, then you may move that as a procedural motion. I think that's everything I need to announce before we begin. So again, the minutes of the previous meeting have been circulated. Are there any questions about those minutes? Or, okay, any matters arising from the minutes? Then the minutes are ratified. One point I will clarify is that the voting data from council will only be available to student members of the student union, so it's not going to be public, but it will be available to all students. And with that, I'm going to hand over to Jim for elections in council.
Okay, we have many nominees for many positions. Are we starting with chair of council?
I think it's done.
Okay, so we're going to start with the nomination. The one nomination for chair of council, Mr. Joe Inwood. Is Mr. Joe Inwood in the house? And would anyone like Joe to nominate to host? Okay, could you come up and host? That's all right.
Hello, hi, I'm Joe. I'm from Mansfield. It's he and pronouns. I think I've made a good chair because I'm quite familiar with the procedure. I've spent a year as JCR president in Mansfield. I've been to a lot of these councils, almost all of them I think. I've observed Sam in the role and his predecessors. I think it's important to have a chair who is an elected student member, just to make sure there's someone who's kind of independent from the SU and able to sort of give a fair running to procedure. And also to keep things running at a good pace, make sure council is efficient. I think we've made lots of improvements with these fantastic things and other ways in which it's presented to reps better, so I'm happy with that. I also sit on the steering committee, which I think I'd be suited to, again, with my experience in the JCL role. And that's probably about it.
Okay, are there any questions for Mr. Inwood?
So from Scrutiny at your manifesto and also listening to you say you're JCL president, what do you think, would there not be implications with that as the chair of council, given that I believe you're also one of the votes in your common group?
I should have qualified, I'm leaving, so next term I won't be. This is my last term.
Okay, do we have any more questions for Mr. Inwood? None seen. Okay, so we'll move now to voting. So it's 1 for Joe, 2 for Ron, and 0 for abstention as usual. And voting is open. We'll wait for quorum. We will end in 3, 2, 1. Voting is closed. And Mr. Inwood has been elected 45 to 1 Ron and 2 abstentions. Okay, now we will move to the election of returning officer, which I think I have to leave my seat somewhat.
So because Jim is running in this election, then the returning officer for this election is going to be Katie, who is the Vice President for Women.
Yeah, so I'm Katie, Vice President for Women at the Oxford SU. I use she, her pronouns. I've never done this before, but I've been given a script, so hopefully I don't mess it up. Okay, so would anybody like to see a host for the position of returning officer? This is, how many positions do we have?
1 position, 2 candidates.
So there's 1 position, 3 candidates. The candidates are Piers Armitage, Daniel, Antonio Villar and Joe Brennan. Would anybody like hosts for 1, all, or all? Hands up for 1 of them you would like to host, hands up for all of them you would like to host. Okay, can the candidates then come forward?
Is it just me?
Is nobody else here? That's not helpful.
I am clearly the most qualified for this position. I have been in this position for a term. It has gone without any problems. I have made a controversial ruling in accordance with the Elections Committee, and I think you should know, I don't believe there should be slates in the up to their use since they are paid positions, they're not political positions. I would be very disappointed if this council decided to stack Elections Committee based on ideological preference. For instance, my own JCR has decided to wrong me because I am a Tory candidate. But yeah, I'm the most qualified and I've showed up today.
Can I just ask whether anybody who just came into the room is a candidate for returning officer? No? Okay. Cool. Would anybody like me to attempt to read out the other candidates' manifestos in the interest of giving them all fair time? Yep, cool. Gosh. Okay, so here's Armitage from University College. So he expects to be in. Sorry, I can't read it from this angle.
In residence for all weeks.
Expects to be in residence for full amount of time. Has never had a motion of censure passed against him. Has never had a motion of no confidence passed against him. Has never been expelled from council. That's happened twice for some reason. And should be elected for this role as a responsible and love the smooth and predictable running of committees and meetings. Does he have anything further? No? No further? Okay. Second candidate is Daniel Antonio Villar from Wadham College. So again, doesn't expect to be out of residence in term time. Doesn't have any motions of censure against them. Doesn't have any motions of no confidence against them. Hasn't been expelled from council, and I feel like we've reiterated that twice on both of these. And should be elected for this role as had no previous involvement with ALZU, Oxford SU, so can be totally neutral. That's it. Okay. Does anybody have any questions for the candidates, aka Jim? Yep.
Wondered what you meant when you said that you don't believe that sabbatical positions are political positions, and what you meant by that, and how you interpret that.
I don't mean political as in national politics. I mean, I believe it is unfortunate that perhaps the more qualified candidate or the more ideologically suited candidate for the electors of the Students' Union are at a disadvantage because they cannot join a slate for whatever reason or do not join a slate for whatever reason. I will make this decision in accordance with Michael Diamond, who is also on the Elections Committee. If it is the decision of the council to elect members that disagree with me, I will happily roll over. Okay. Okay, so the question was basically why
Catherine Canning, Vice President Access and Academic Affairs, Oxford SU, and I use she, her pronouns. My question was, in Jim's Husk, he said that he didn't believe that sabbatical positions were political, so I asked him to clarify that statement and just clarify the statement.
And my clarification and my justification was this. My clarification is that I don't mean party politics as in national politics, I mean the actual political process of joining slates and doing this and that and hacking, all very boring stuff, I'm sure you're aware. And I believe that the best candidate for the job should not be at a dispossession because they cannot play the political game. I don't think that's in the fair running and the philosophy of the Students' Union for equality and all that.
Okay, well, Oxford SU, she had pronouns. You talked a lot about political game and ideologies. I just want to know if you have conflicts of interest with candidates running the elections, how will you manage that?
I expect I will have conflicts of interest, and I will basically put up a communicative wall between me and them. I will only deal with them on email, and I will only talk to them in the aspect of returning officer. In the past, even in this meeting, Daniel Antonio Villar is one of my best friends, who's nominated to RA. I don't think he quite realised I nominated too. I would declare the interest every time. I mean, I've declared an interest in elections committee. I've met with them twice, so I would just continue to do that.
Any further questions for Jim? On scene. Okay. Oh wait, sorry. Oh.
Tom Barrington, Vice President Charities Community Officer, Ian. How will you sort of help expand speaking opportunities to people who might not have run in student in council before?
I'm a great port of call. I was completely ignorant of how the Oxford SU ran before I joined as a DRO, and I would love to extend my hand because I feel that I had some false apprehensions, and so would like to have as many people know that Oxford SU does good stuff. We have actually done pretty good work, I think, this term and last term, people nominate. I mean, today's case, I think we've had like 9 nominations or something. So, and that's basically after Josh, you've done an amazing job. But just continuing that philosophy of outreach and being smiley and answering questions in a non-snobbish way.
Any further questions? We'll take like one more if anybody has it. None seen. Okay, should we move to vote? Can I do that? Okay, let's move to vote. Okay, so 1 for Daniel Antonio Lau, 2 for Pierce Armitage, and 3 for Joe Brennan, and 4 for Ron.
Let me just clarify what's happening. This is single transferable vote that we're doing. So you're going to rank each candidate. Sorry, this is my fault. Okay.
This was not in my script.
So you're putting your first choice. Once we've done this, we will then move on to your second choice, and then your third choice. And then we'll close it. Does that make sense? So you're putting whoever you want to win the most. And then in the next slide, you'll put whoever you want to win second most, and so on and so forth. You can abstain at any point.
Right, so that has now been resolved. Apologies for that. As you may have gathered from previous councils, the results in a single transferable vote are not supposed to display on the screen. They'll be processed sort of after the votes have been cast. So we are now rerunning the entire election for the returning officer. Chair of council's happened, that's fine. The returning officer we're rerunning. I'm going to hand back to Katie to do that.
So let's try again. Okay, so 1 for Daniel Antonio Lau, 2 for Piers Armitage, 3 for Jim Brennan, 4 for Ron, 0 to abstain. Voting's open. Yeah, first preference, and hopefully we'll make it through this time. Okay, voting goes in 3, 2, 1. Okay, second preference, same again, 0 to abstain. Okay, voting's closing, 3, 2, 1. And then third preference. Voting's closing, 3, 2, 1. Okay, great.
Thank you. Those results will be processed under supervision of Katie. We're now going to move to steering committee, which means I am going to vacate the chair, and the chair will pass to Marianne, who is your VP graduates, although Jim will be running the hustings.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have, we have 3 candidates for steering committee, and there are 2 positions. And do we have anyone that's nominated in the room besides Sam, obviously? Okay, and would we like hustings? Would anyone like there to be hustings? Okay, could you please come up, sir? Okay, we'll go in the order of hustings for questions for Sam, then Peter. That's all right. So there'll be short speeches of 1 minute for each candidate.
So yes, you all know me, I'm Sam, I've been the chair of council this term. I unfortunately don't have the time resources to be able to be chair of council next term, but I'm still very keen to be part of the steering committee. I'm obviously, having done it this term, I'm very familiar with all that role entails. As chair of council, I've been working hard each week to try to make sure that all the agenda items are compiled appropriately, that everything's right, and that you get everything on time. As steering committee, I would continue that. I also continue, as I've highlighted, the work of the review of council, which I have set up and which I'm very keen to see through. I'm now a 4th year. I've got significant experience both in this council and in my own JCR of dealing with procedural matters, and I think I'm highly qualified to be on steering committee.
Hi, my name's Peter. I'm second year New College when I'm him. I think steering committee is a very important behind-the-scenes role within the council and its working. And I have a very similar role myself as New College Vice President. One of my main jobs is to organise the JCR meetings, collate agendas and minutes, and make sure everything's working in the right order. I think these are skills that are very much needed in the steering committee. This term has been my first real engagement with council, but I think it's done a fantastic job, and I want to become a greater part of that. I know we've been under review in the last few weeks about how council works, and I want to contribute to that and make your council, essentially.
So in the interests of fairness, there is a third candidate whose manifesto I will read out, Mr. Rai Saad Khan. He writes, I am a committed member of the Oxford University student body and care deeply about student voice and representation in decisions that affect them, and want to be on the committee to aid in this process and give back to the community that has given so much to all of us. As a first-year international student, the Oxford SU and the College JCR have truly allowed me to feel at home here, and I want to work for a committee that can allow other students to feel the same way. Therefore, I am deeply committed to this role and have involved myself with roles that display this passion, ranging from access work for the college to being secretary of the Christchurch JCR, member of the Oxford Union Finance Committee, and involvement in identity societies such as OU Islamic Society or Pakistani Society. Okay, do we have any questions for the candidates that are hustling at the moment? Cool, go to
This is not so much to the candidate, just in general. Oh yeah, Lucas here, Wadham. Didn't we elect someone for a steering committee like 2 weeks ago? How many spaces are we electing this for as well?
Yeah, we elected Rita, but there is now vacancies rolling into next term. This is for Hillary term.
Oh, okay.
So,
And there are 2 slots.
yeah, there are 2 slots. Any more questions? Not seeing any. Are we sure? Okay, can we have one for Tom?
Hi, Tom, Charities and Communities here. How will you navigate any potential conflicts of interest you might have with other positions involved in the SU or college?
So good stuff, Sam.
I am a student trustee of the SU. I think I would handle conflicts of interest as I have done as chair of council. Normally there is no conflict of interest. I think any conflict of interest can be disclosed. Ultimately, I can withdraw from a committee decision if I'm not able to make a fair and balanced decision, but I think on most of the procedural matters that steering committee works with, my aims as a trustee and as a member of the steering committee align wholly. Steering committee is there to make sure that council works well, and trustees want council to work well. With regards to my JCR, I don't hold any positions that would put me in any conflict of interest with this.
I wouldn't expect perhaps many conflicts of interest to arise. I think steering committees, a lot of it's work organisation rather than shaping policy. In regards to my position in new JCR, I'm here in the capacity as our student union rep rather than our vice president. If there were a conflict of interest, I would register that interest and resign my role as SU rep and delegate it to someone else.
Okay, do we have any more questions? Okay, we'll move to voting. Are we all good to go? So we're going to do the same thing as last time, starting with a first preference vote. The people over there. No worry. Voting will close in 3, 2, 1. And now we're moving on to second preferences. I think, but I don't have a little counter to tell me when we're done.
It's not working.
Oh, is it not working? No worries. Okay, you can vote now.
It's fine. It's fine. Don't worry, Josh. It's the boundary. It's a new place.
And we will end this round in 3, 2, 1. And now for our third choice. Oh, sorry. No, sorry. Counted on. Cool.
Yes.
Voting will close in 3, 2, 1. Okay, we're all done. Now finally, we will move on to Elections Committee. We have 2 candidates for 2 positions. And would anybody like Joe or Toby, well he's not here, to ask? Okay, we'll have Hustings. I should say I have a conflict of interest. I've met Toby twice. He's a nice guy in my opinion. But that's not a good thing. Apologies.
Yeah, now it's
So that's my conflict of interest, is what I'm saying. That I've got on with this person. So can we have Joe come up to us, please?
Hi, I'm Joe. Named Mark Wu. I'm first year in history and I do she, her pronouns. It's my first year. I've not done anything with student council before, but I'm keen to get involved. Sorry, I'm keen to get involved and like meet more people outside of my college because Lady Margaret was quite far out. I'm sure you all know, but it's nice to work as part of a team, and I want to ensure that the elections to the student council are fair, and if you put yourself forward for something, you should be able to have a fair shot at getting it.
Okay, do we have any questions for Joe? Oh, actually, sorry, first I'll just read out the manifesto of Toby. He says, Oxford SU does excellent work, and I wish to aid this as a completely impartial election assistant who has never ran for any role in the Oxford Students' Union. While I have little election experience, I'm a quick learner and would certainly be willing to put in the time and effort into fulfilling the requirements of the role. I look forward to the challenge. Do we have any questions for Joe?
Can I just say this as a point of order, and I'm happy to take the chair's ruling on this, but I've met Toby, is a legitimate declaration of conflict of interest. He's a nice guy, is not.
I apologise.
Thank you.
So correct, Dane.
Dane Rogers, Merton College, he, him. So I believe according to this, you have to make sure the elections are run fairly and properly. Could you please maybe give examples of what an a subtly unfair election is, so we have an idea of what sorts of things you'd be trying to avoid?
So a subtly unfair election. If someone, say, had met the candidate and knew them personally and promoted them in front of everyone, that would so yeah, that kind of thing. And using things that aren't available to everyone. So if you had, say, more, if you could get funding from your GCR or something to run your election within your college, that's not fair because maybe someone else would get their GCR. Using your social media platform, if you know someone that has a big social media platform using that, that's not fair. Just different rulings like that. Does that answer your question?
Are there any more questions for Joe? I see none, so we'll move to voting. It's the same as last time. Press 1 for Joe, 2 for Toby, 3 for Ron, 4 for abstention, and... Sorry. Sorry. Oh, we have Josh. Is there a second round to this? Okay. So we will finish in 3, 2, 1. And now we will move on to the second choice. And elections will end in 3, 2, 1. Okay. We've closed. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. All the elections conducted by single transferable vote will be overseen by the returning officer, which in case of all the elections except that for returning officer will be Jim, and in the case of the election for returning officer will be Katie, and they will make an announcement on the results in due course in this council meeting. I would also like to highlight, before we move into reports, that we do have a report from the Scrutiny Committee, which has gone up online, went up online yesterday afternoon. If you haven't read that, you may wish to have a look at that. We're going to begin with reports from and questions to the President and Vice Presidents of the SU. I'm going to invite them up. Oh, yeah, they can be there, that's fine.
Hi everyone, I'm Kate, I'm your SU President and I use she, her pronouns. Big thing from me is we're in the middle of this Girl Can Week at the minute, which is a week trying to get more women involved in sport at Oxford. It's going way better than expected, the engagement has been amazing, but there's still a couple of days left, so check out the website, get involved. There's all sorts of things ranging from like a free women's only hour in the pool, to box fit class, to like tasters with some of the blue squads, so check it out. We're also doing a big celebration event on Saturday at LMH. It starts at 7. There'll be drinks and canapes and all sorts of things, so come and celebrate all sorts of women's achievements at Oxford with us. We'd love to see you there. Aside from that, I went to a really important day up in Parliament last week, which was an anti-Semitism on campus discussion hosted by the APPG on anti-Semitism. So it was really great to be there and see our NUS also represented there. I'm also really committee heavy as ever. Coming up from me next week is Strange Student Solidarity Week. There'll be comms going out by the end of this week, but I'm hosting tea and cake for any student at Oxford who is estranged in some way from their families. We're also going to have a big washing line up in the SU where you can come and pin messages of solidarity to those students who are studying without family support. So look out for that for me and please get involved. It's also World AIDS Day on the 1st of December. You can get your red ribbons from the SU, their own reception. We suggest a £1 donation, but it's whatever you can give, and that's in support of the National AIDS Trust. So thanks, have a great week now. End of term.
Hi, I'm Katie. I'm your Vice President for Women. I use she, her pronouns. So Kate's basically said it all about Oxford Girls Can. Just a final note is that if you want to come to the Saturday evening event, please go on the Eventbrite, which you can find on the Oxford SU website. You'll have to get a ticket for that. It's free. It's just in the interest of signing up and making sure we have adequate numbers and we don't overcater or undercater. Also, please only buy a ticket if you identify some way with the term woman or if you have a complex gender identity that includes the term woman. Other things that I have been doing is the It Happens Here elections, then closed as of today. However, if you want to get involved and you feel like the election was not accessible to you, please just send me an email. I've just been running it on my own because It Happens Here doesn't have many members at the moment. So if you haven't heard about the election and you think, oh, I really want to actually get involved in the anti-sexual violence campaign at Oxford SU, just drop me an email, we'll see what we can do. The results of the people that have currently nominated themselves, voting is now open, so if you want to go on the website and check out people that want to get involved in the campaign already, please do so, please vote for them. It'll be announced on Monday. Really excited to start working with them. I had something else, but I've forgotten it. Yeah, super busy, super glad that it's nearly 8 weeks. Hope you're all managing to carry on for the last sort of stretch. If you need any support, I'm here. Please contact me. Thanks.
Hi everyone, so I'm Catherine, I'm your Vice President for Access and Academic Affairs and I use she, her pronouns. So I'm just back from annual leave today, so I've been out of the office for a few days. People have tried to contact me. I'm slowly making my way back through the emails and messages, etc. Other things that have been going on in and around are we've got SUSCAM have just elected a new committee. Target Schools are looking to elect new executive members to its committee, so please get involved there. As with Kate, quite committee heavy. I've got all the access and the academic committees, so we've got quite a few of them coming up next week for the end of term. I will also be running our interview helper training, which is meant to supplement training offered by colleges for those people involved in interview helpers, shepherding, etc., etc. And the guidebook will also be ready next week. I'll be sending that out to access officers and the admissions officers in colleges to be sent round helpers. So yeah, if there's anything you want to get involved in or any questions, please feel free to email me and I'll catch you up on anything I've forgotten about.
Hello, Tom Keegan, the Charity Community. So yes, I've done sort of a couple of things this week. The organisation for the Winter Training Conference is still going on. There we go. That's what I do. I function as a memory. Yes, so we've already contacted some of you for sort of advice about what to include in that. If you have any more advice about sort of what would help, what kind of training would help you do your jobs and sort of represent your folks, then contact us. My project on bikes is still going on, and I'm very excited about the bike documentation that's about to come up. Yes, also now we have a full and fully trained team of community wardens, so they might be, if you live out in East Oxford or Jericho, they might be knocking on your door at some point this term or next term. And yes, things that are coming up are, there is a sustainability guild tomorrow at the student union, so if you would like to come, or if you would like your uni reps or whoever is in your common to come to that, again, please let me know. It's at 11 o'clock in the student union. There's also going to be, where I'm going to kind of try and bring together all of the people interested in supporting refugees to the student union to sort of make sure that we're not duplicating work, make sure that we're working together as much as possible. I was thinking of like the Refugee Advocate Forum to call that, but then I realised that the acronym
10 seconds.
So we're going to go for network of refugee advocates. This could be a better idea. There's also sub-elections. If you want my position, any of our positions, sort of contact us, we'll buy you a coffee. It's really fun and you should apply. Yes, thank you.
We're here after council.
Yes, that will.
I'm Farheen, I'm the Vice President for Wealth and Equal Opportunities. I use she, her pronouns. The last week was kind of two different networking events for representatives for equality, diversity and liberation across the community university. I was working with Vice President for Women and Vice President for Graduates on that. There was one for MCR representatives and one for JCR representatives. I forgot the word for JCR. Yeah, and they were really well received by the university, and actually the university is now planning to secure funding that they will put into those kind of networking sessions in future to try and make sure that the work that's being done on a college level gets done at university and recognised at university level too. Today is also the start of UK Disability History Month. OSDC, the Oxford Students Disability Community, and SUSCAM held a joint protest about half an hour ago. I wasn't there, but obviously I stand in solidarity with them because I think this university doesn't do enough for its disabled students and students with conditions, so definitely support them. I've also been involved with a mental health forum in the last week, so I got a little bit more information about what's going on across the university and in the city with regards to mental health for students in particular. And I'm also hoping to relaunch Good Night Out for elections for the next term. Good Night Out is about working on night safety, on like improving training for clubs. It's anti-discrimination and harassment with the club and night scene at Oxford. So if you're interested, please get in touch with me. As a final thing, I'm working with Catherine on the Year Abroad project. We had a really good meeting a couple of weeks ago, and we're hoping to kind of host a survey to kind of get some testimonials from people who went on the Year Abroad, and whether it was good, what was bad about it, and try and collate those into some form of information booklet that will go out to students on the Year Abroad, because currently the information isn't good enough. Yeah, I'll stop talking. Ask me any questions if you like. Thanks.
Hello, I'm Marianne. I'm the Vice President of Graduates. I use she, her pronouns. In the last few weeks, I have attended some committee meetings. For those of you that attend council every other week, you will know that that's kind of the story of my life at the moment. One of the things I have been doing specifically this week is Research Degrees panel, which is very focused on the DPhil, how we can improve the DPhil. It's quite an interesting space with lots of people that really do care about postgrads. That's a very nice committee to go to. Last week, as he mentioned, we were doing the Applied conference. That was really lovely. Thank you to those of you that came. We're hoping this is something we can build on in the next time. So if you couldn't make it to the Applied last week, please let us know if you're interested in this. We're hoping this can become a long-term thing we're doing. In addition to that, Katie and I have had the pleasure of meeting one of our student parents. Student parents are quite often a group that are overlooked, but we actually have quite a few of them. And at the moment, being a student parent in Oxford is actually not that great in most cases. We are going to try and see what we can do to support student parents better. Similarly, we've been running the first event of the term for the campaign that is called Students Plus. Students Plus is for mature students and for student parents and carers. At the moment, we only have one active student in Students Plus, so if any of you feel that you belong to one of the groups that they're representing, please get in touch. We can hopefully keep on doing that next time.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for the President and Vice Presidents about what they've said, about what they've been doing, or about other things that the SU is doing? None seen. So I am now going to invite up the members of Scrutiny Committee to deliver the Scrutiny Committee report on the work of the President and Vice Presidents. Jim, get one.
Hi, I'm Anisha Farouk, Queen's College, Sheehan.
Hi, I'm Lucas Moisard, London College, Sheehan.
And we are Scrutiny Committee. Just to give an overview of what Scrutiny Committee does, we're here to be like an advisory committee to the council. We're elected by council, and we're here to hold the practical officers to account and to like review the work that they do each term. So like I think over the last 2 weeks, we've been interviewing them and pushing up a report which is on the website, as was said.
Yeah, we were elected 2 weeks ago, so it's all quite new, but we're going to be in position for the academic year. I'll be feeding back to the sabbatical officers. So, the President and Vice Presidents of Oxford Student Union to keep up with them on their work and how it's been going. I'm just going to read out the little bits from my report. I'm going to be talking about the President Kate Cole, Catherine Canning and Katie Haig, and then Anisha will speak about Farheen, Tom and James. So, despite some challenging circumstances over the first half of this term, especially with the rebranding and with the transition into their new roles, Kate Cole has made a really good start on her term as Oxford Student Union President. But the real challenges will come in balancing those really vital administrative commitments and the project work. And that's no easy task, because the committee load on all the special officers, but particularly the Oxford SU President, is really very high. And I've added here, go to This Girl Can Week while you still can. Catherine Canning's term of office has also been promisingly, and the Scrutiny Committee is very excited with the progress made on the interview project, which already changed conditions at some colleges, including my own college, Wadden. So thank you. We are very eager to see what will come considerably later with the development and delivery of the Access and Academic Support projects. And Katie Haig's dedication and achievements in a number of different projects is very evident. The Scrutiny Committee is very confident that good progress is being made across the board, even if the deliverables are sometimes more impactful. And again, go to This Girl Can Week while you can.
Okay, so VP Charities and Community, Tom Barringer, being him. He's been doing some good work with student housing, improving the prospects of student graduates and their employment, getting publicising the fact that they can join UCU, which is the Universities and Colleges Union. He's been improving relations with the Oxford Hub and trying to improve cycle safety, and we're generally very happy with the work that he's been doing. VP Grads, Marion Nelson, so she has quite a big task on her hands, trying to, one of her big projects is trying to ascertain the effect of Brexit on graduates, which is a difficult thing to do, obviously, but we're happy with the work that she's been doing so far. And she's been doing good work with creating an inspiration catalogue, which is going to be a sort of thing that colleges and departments can look at to see what other colleges and departments have been doing well, and what kind of programs they can implement to improve student life for their grads. And we're generally happy with the work that she's been doing. And then VP for Welfare and Equal Opportunities, Farheen Ahmed, she's also been doing good work with her projects, Disability in Sport. She's been lobbying nationally alongside organisations like the National Union of Students in the US. She's also been improving training packages for welfare officers, and she's also been lobbying the university to try and diversify the assessment process. Generally, we are happy with the progress being made with all of the SABs. We have been, in all the separate interviews that we've had with the SABs, we've set tangible goals that they can work on and feed back to us during the next round of interviews in about middle period. A lot of them have been kind of, as part of the whole rebrand, there's been a focus on the long-term future of the SU. So like looking at what the SU should be doing in the next 5 years and so on. So a lot of the work they're doing is about setting up structures for their successors, and we think that they are generally doing a good job, and we are confident that they will continue doing a good job for us. Yeah.
If you want more detail on any of these, on all these projects, please read our report.
Does anybody have any questions for the Scrutiny Committee on their reports? Jim? Yes, take a question there.
Kate, she helps with this. It's not a question. I just want to log my thanks to the Scrutiny Committee, and I hope Council will echo. These guys were elected 2 weeks ago. They've had to spend an hour and a half with each of us, write up an hour and a half worth of recording conversation, and then produce a report to you guys. So they were in the SU solid for like 3 days the other week, and honestly they've worked so hard. So I just wanted to say thanks on behalf of the SU for the work you've done, and I hope Council recognises how hard you've worked to put this together. So thank you.
Are there any questions from anyone else? None seen. Thank you very much to the Scrutiny Committee. As I have said, you can contact them outside of the council meeting if you have particular questions about the report, or get in touch via me, the chair. We will now move on to other reports. We have, as I said in my email, received written reports from 3 campaigns, from Target Schools, from Cray, and from Class Act. Would any other chairs of campaigns or anyone from Raise and Give like to give a verbal report? I'm not seeing anyone would like to give a verbal report. Would anybody like to ask any questions to the campaigns or to any of the other elected officers of the Student Union? None seen. I am now going to hand over to the returning officer to announce the results of the elections.
Thank you very much. The steering committee, using the single transferable vote system, re-elected Peter Madden, followed by Samuel Banks. For the elections committee, we elected Joe, followed by reopening nominations. So there will be an open position for first week councillor.
What were the percentages and the numbers?
I can give you the numbers here. So Peter Madden 24, Sam Banks 21, Joe 55, reopen nominations 19. I can't remember.
Point of information, we'll put all of the vote down as the votes online as part of the minutes.
I'm back. Okay, so the results of the election for the returning officer, the results are that Jim Brennan will remain in his position, so congratulations Jim Brennan. The breakdown of the voting results and the voting numbers will be online, so go find them on our website if you are interested in how people voted. That's it, I think. That's all I have to say.
Yes, so we're going to take one more report from Kate on the work of the trustee board.
Hi Council, sorry, I promise you'll get rid of me soon. No, you'll get rid of me. Yeah. I'll stop talking. I'm chair of the trustee board, so it falls on me to give you a little update on what the trustee board have been doing this term. For those of you who don't know, the trustee board is made up of the 6 sabbatical officers, our elected student trustees, and 4 external trustees. And Brian, our CEO. And we're doing a bit of investigation as to how we better link council with the trustee board and how you guys find out more about what's going on. So I thought we'd give a brief update for now, and hopefully you'll get a proper report and kind of a full thing next term. But the sort of things we talk about, the fact we've moved office and everything that's come with the new building and the new lease for the new building. On that note, for those of you that don't know, we have moved and it's a really great space. There's beanbags and stuff. Come and hang out with us. It's great. We've talked about our new strategy, and that's all gone through the board. We've responded to a request from the Charity Commission, who are one of the governing bodies. And from that, we've been looking at some of our internal processes and how we can do things better, if anything's come from in the future. We've looked at governance changes for elections. The board voted last term to increase the salary of SABs, so that we can put roofs over our heads. And we're thinking about how we engage with council. We're also trying to look at big strategic discussions. So our last trustee board, we had a sort of hour discussion about how we put equality and diversity at the heart of everything we do LSU. That ranges from our campaigns all the way up to sort of recruitment for our trustees and how we ensure that our external trustees and our student trustees are as diverse as possible. So that's the kind of stuff we get up to, but yeah, feel free to shoot me an email or whatever if you have any questions about the board. Thanks.
Thank you, Kate. And with that, we're going to move on to our items for resolution, beginning with item number 1, free or subsidised mobile mechanic for Oxford University students. Would anybody like to see any discussion at all on this motion or have any opposition to it? Yes, okay. So I am going to invite the proposer up to give a short speech of introduction to the motion.
College, I use female pronouns. Yeah, so basically it came to my attention that this scheme is run by the university. It's called the Mobile Mechanic Scheme. And I saw that staff get free, kind of like the labour cost of bike repairs is free for them, and for students they have to pay the full price for their labour costs. And I just felt that this was kind of unfair. And that we should be thinking about it. Obviously, cycle safety is really important for a lot of students in Oxford Cycle, and I think students and staff should be treated equally and fairly. So yeah, that's how this came up. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the proposed motion? Yes, take one there.
This is more important information. No, in fact, this isn't a question at all. Sorry. Let's leave it to debate, sorry.
Question there?
BCDOC Burton College EHEC. Do we know how much it would cost for the university to subsidise the same scheme for all students down to 3, which is what the motion implies? Like how much would they have to pay for that? And do you think it's, do you know?
I don't know. I don't know how many students have actually heard of this scheme and are using it, so I don't know what kind of the uptake would be on it. But I think that's a really important point that I'm not sure how many students actually know about this scheme, and that should be something that is also in the motion. It should be publicised by the university so people actually use it. I don't know.
Any further questions?
To supplement that answer, the university has a £400,000 pot of money that it calls its Sustainable Travel Fund that is got directly from parking levies of the university staff members, and it uses a small proportion currently on the mobile mechanic scheme for staff. I don't know how much it would be to extend it to students, but I think it's very possible indeed.
Yes, Ben?
Dave Rogers, Merton College here. Following on from Tom Barringer's question, do we have any idea of how many staff there are that out of those, how many staff actually use this scheme? So we have some numbers as a point of context as to whether or not this is actually viable?
No, I don't think we have any numbers on that. I will take one more question if there's another question. Now, see, is there any opposition to this motion?
Keep your hands up.
None seen, and so this motion passes. Next motion, supporting the zero emission zone. Would anybody like to see this motion debated or discussed in any way? Yes, in fact, I have had 2 amendments submitted. I think I'll invite Tom to make a short speech of introduction first, then we'll take short factual questions, and then we'll discuss the amendments.
Hello again. Tom Jarrison, meeting here. So I mentioned at last council that we have really high levels of nitrogen oxide in some areas of the city, and the city council, in response to this, they currently have a proposal open for this thing called the zero emission zone. This would ban petrol and diesel cars in the city centre in a kind of slowly growing bubble of the city centre from 2020 to 2035. I think this is really, really good for students. I think that students are not people who typically drive around in the city centre, they are people who typically live in the city centre. Half of us are, or almost half of us are graduates who live in the city centre pretty much all year round. Or the graduates live in the city centre all year round. And so I was seeking council's approval, I suppose, to write, to respond on behalf of the student union to this consultation saying yes, saying we think this is a good thing. And I'm happy to get it over.
Okay, do we have any questions? Yes, question there.
Hello, I'm Ava Scott, Hartford, she, her. And I was just wondering, has there been any consideration of how would we go about when students are moving in and out of their rooms and the logistics of this? I think, although there will probably be other ways to move in without using a car, these may be expensive and then it can be sort of an access issue. Some people can't afford these other methods of moving in and out, especially as Oxford's a particular place for undergrads where you have to move in and out every term. So I think that's probably a key question in supporting this for all year round, but any clauses for term transitions.
Thank you. Okay, so before I let Tom answer that question, I'm going to highlight that I have had two amendments submitted. The first one, which is not taken as friendly,
Yeah, that's not taken.
Says to add to council resolves, mandate the Vice President, Charities and Community to ask the City Council to make exemptions for students moving in and out at the beginning and end of term as part of the SU's consultation response. The second amendment, which is taken as friendly, is to add to council resolves, mandate the Vice President, Charities and Community to assess whether the ZEZ is likely to disproportionately harm low-income students, to consider whether anything can be done to remedy this, and to include this in the consultation response. That second amendment is taken as friendly, and so is added to the motion. The first amendment is not. I'm going to let Tom answer the question before we move into debate on that.
So yes, the question is very, very closely linked to the amendment that I have taken as unfriendly. It's not exactly the same though. So to answer the question, I think it would be a good idea to consider the impact of the ZEZ on students moving in and out of the city centre. And I am under the impression that if this motion falls, a weaker motion will be, if this amendment falls, a weaker amendment will be tabled, or will be proposed to consider that impact, or to mandate me to consider that impact while I'm filling in the form for the student union. If that, does that answer your question? It might not.
Yeah, consider it, I guess.
Right, thank you. So we now have a contested amendment, which I shall read again. So to add to the council resolves, mandate the Vice President, Charities and Community to ask the City Council to make exemptions for students moving in and out at the beginning and end of term as part of the SU's consultation response. I would like to invite the proposer of the motion, of the amendment, Tom Wortham, to give a short speech in favour.
Tom Wortham, Keegan, St Catherine's. We took this motion to our common room and we've agreed to support it. But I've been mandated to put forward this amendment because it was felt that at the beginning and end of term it's going to be incredibly important that people are stopped from driving into the city with non-electric cars. So we think that the City Council should consider exempting students at these peak times because it could put huge pressure on public transport otherwise, and that doesn't seem feasible to have everybody moving in and out without cars.
Thank you, and I'm now going to invite Tom to give a short speech in opposition to that.
Thank you. So yes, the reason I think this is friendly is basically because I want to gauge the view of the room. I would happily support this motion with equal enthusiasm whether or not this amendment passes. I thought, I took it as a friendly because I think it might be unnecessary. This, so the ZEZ, the largest version of the ZEZ comes into force in 2030, and I think there's a lot of sort of R&D work that can be done between now and 2030 to make cars, or to make electric and hybrid cars affordable. You saw that with the budget today, with Philip Hammond sort of giving a lot of money, or sort of putting aside a lot of money for electric cars, and that's that's something that's being kind of replicated in a lot of different places. I think that we risk damaging the sort of spirit of the ZEZ if we invite them to make this kind of exception, because I think that I think it's a very kind of it's a very powerful thing to do, and I think we risk kind of diluting the sort of thrust of things, and I think we would invite further exceptions to be made and all sorts of things. However, I would support the motion.
I'm now going to look to Council to give points of debate and discussion on this amendment. Please just raise your hand whenever there's sort of silence if you have anything at all to say. Yes, we'll start over there. I'm going to cap speeches in this debate at 45 seconds.
So that's like 18 years ago, so children born in this year would be affected by this policy. I think that's quite relevant.
Thank you. More points, please just keep raising your hands if you do have anything to say. Yes, we'll go to Kate. We'll go to Kate.
I just want to make it clear to Council that before this motion would come, I've been sitting in a lot of committees where this has been discussed, from conference of colleges, which is all the heads of house, to estates bursars, and I've been raising this point about students and picking up and dropping off at the beginning and end of term. So this is something I've actually been doing already before this came, without knowledge that this was kind of coming. So that, just to make my position clear, and let you know that's what I was doing, and that will stop it. That's the decision of Council.
Lucas Sante.
Lucas Wallenby here. I think climate change is really important and requires urgent action now. I also think it looks really bad if we say, yeah, the people who need to do this urgent action are just the ordinary people who live in the centre of town, not students who get bussed in and out when we want to. I think we should agree with support the town council on this motion and making it as strong as possible.
Dave Rogers, Merton College, him. So a logistical question I have is, if it were to be the case that it were to be harder to move things at the end of each term, would it not be possible that an indirect effect that might have on the colleges is that they then allow people to stay over term a lot more consistently, and that there would potentially be some indirect positive benefits to fill this out?
I'm going to pass to Tom on that, I think.
I think that might happen. I think that there's a lot of room for speculation on this. I wouldn't want to commit to that.
Sorry.
Colleges depend on conference income so much. I think it's been a very, very difficult argument from having those conversations already about strange students.
Okay, further points in debate. Yes, Dan.
Sorry,
Can you wait for the microphone, please? Sorry.
Sorry, really pedantic point. In council believes, in the fourth paragraph, attached to it 3, there's a typo. I'll fix that.
I can answer that. That's a footnote. If you look on the agenda, there will be a footnote attached.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this? One there. Behind you, Stephen.
I was just wondering if the impact on disabled students who have to move in and out of rooms every term would also been considered when rejecting this amendment.
no, it had not been considered. I'm happy to consider that. And if that's in the minutes, then I suppose, do we need an amendment to say that I will consider that explicitly? That's in the minutes that I will consider that. Does that answer your question?
There's another other point over there.
Rebecca Hartford-Sheeter. I just feel like we're saying that it's quite far away, but it's in 2 years that the first zone will come into place, and that might affect like 2 colleges. I think I looked at it, but it's definitely by 2025. It's affecting about 7 colleges, definitely all the Turner Street ones. And so I feel like we do need to. We can't just say, oh, it'll be 2035. It might be different by then, but like by 2025, that's only 7 years ago. We have the exact same car that we've got now. We can't say that there will be a lot of change by then. And I feel like we do. Like, I don't really think that it's feasible that all students are going to be able to. I don't understand how it's going to work, like how a student's going to move in, basically. I think exemptions are really needed for it to work.
Thank you. I will take 2 more points, I think. One there.
Kai, Worcester, they now. Just first of all, like international students have to move in without cars and all of that already. Obviously, it's a different situation, but it is possible to move in without cars. And also, I think this is definitely something that needs to be considered, and that's already in the other amendment that was considered friendly. But starting off, deciding that we want to go for an exemption seems like we're just ruling out the possibility of anything else. And the entire point of the zero emission zone, I feel, is to try and to mean that people have to take all of these other options into consideration.
Okay.
Ellery, yeah, I was just gonna. I just wanted to say that it seems to me that already specifically say what the solution should be to this problem, rather than to take the friendly amendment, which says that this problem will be looked into, and I trust that whoever holds this position will look into it thoroughly. Like it seems to me early to say what should be done exactly, which is to ask for exemptions. So I think to take a particular amendment now would be a bit premature. Although I think it's a really important point. I just say I think it would be premature, and actually this solution should be worked out by time, which is what's in the friendly amendment.
Thank you. Any other points? No, I will invite the proposer to give a short speech in summation and Tom to give a short speech in summation, and then we shall vote. Maximum 30 seconds.
Just like, I agree that it might look a bit like we're resisting the zero emission zone, but we do need to be realistic. I know some students moving without cars, but we're talking about every student moving, or except those who have electric cars, which might not happen in time. So I do think that we should seriously consider asking for an exemption. And also, that point was raised to me this morning, even if we were expecting more students to buy an electric car early, it still damages the environment because of all the materials involved in making the car that we might not otherwise support. So that also needs to be considered.
I don't think I have much to add. Oxford City Council is on the verge, I think, of doing something quite historic, and I think we should support them in that. If there's, I don't support the strong version of this motion. The weak version of this motion would be for me to consider, just like to tell the council to consider this, and I would rather you supported that.
Thank you. We are now going to vote on the amendment. So we'll hopefully have a screen up soon. So in favour is to include this amendment in the motion. So 1, to include the amendment in the motion, and 2, to not include the amendment in the motion, and 0 to abstain. Voting is open. It's not open, Josh.
Yes.
So 1 in favour, 2 against, 0 to abstain. Voting will close in 3, 2, 1. So by 29 votes to 25, the amendment shall be included in the motion. We now go back to debate on the motion itself. Does anyone have any further questions about the motion in its amended form? None seen. Is there? Take one question there. Okay. What do you?
Sorry, it's just, I feel particularly with the amended form, I'm wondering how well the motion will read, seeing as it's mandating the Vice President to make it clear that we support the zero emission zone, but now we have the amended addition that we also want the exemption. It seems like it might not be very clear that that's actually supporting the zero emission zone.
It's a series of amendments. The mandates that have been added will go on the bottom of this list, or it doesn't particularly matter. If someone wanted to amend the motion further, they could do, but the motion is now what it is in its amended form. I think there was one more question there.
Ava Hartford, you have. It wasn't an exemption for students all year round, not really. It's more like the 2 days or 4 days a term per year. So what? That's like, oh my god, the math's bad. Like 6, like only a couple of days a year was. So I don't think we're still supporting it in like 80% of the days of the year, so it still seems quite broad. It's still very much popular opinion of the thing you said earlier. Yeah.
Thank you. Any more questions on this motion? None seen. Any opposition to this motion in its amended form? Is that opposition there? You can say, what you'll say. Okay, so you're opposed to the amended motion. So I'm now looking for someone to make a short speech in opposition to the amended motion. You happy to do that?
I think that it will sound...
You have name, college, pronouns, please, sorry.
She, her pronouns. I think with the name form now sounds ridiculous, like, over there said, yeah, it sounds bad. It just sounds contradictory, and I don't see to it as it is.
Thank you. I am going to invite points of debate on the motion of up to 45 seconds. We'll start here.
I don't think it really does sound ridiculous. We're supporting the zero emission zone, as we say, for the vast majority of the year. We just want to include within that exemptions at very particular times, and that's just in the interest of getting students in and out of the university, which we have to do. So I still think it's consistent to support the zero emission zone overall, but those exemptions.
Yeah, we'll do that.
I will still say that. So like what I foresaw as an excellent motion, which was supporting this amazing initiative of Oxford Council, has now become saying, okay, yeah, everyone else should be doing this, but like us students, when it's difficult for us, and you say it's only a few days, but every different college kicks students out at different times, particularly with exams, everyone's moving at very different times. So it's probably a week at least at each dim and end. And then particularly with people at different, different term lengths. So like just, now I'm seeing this as a motion which is saying we're getting our VP for charities and community to say that actually we just want students to be a completely separate place, which is entirely and utterly unfair to the people of Oxford.
Thank you. Take the point there. It's you, Daniel.
Daniel Rogers, Burton College here. So I'm just concerned that if we now vote this motion down, it might be the exemption isn't ideal, but we've had that debate, and I'm concerned if we vote this down that it could be understood to say actually you don't want a zero emission zone at all, and nor consider the majority of the people in this room necessarily support that position. And I'm concerned if we do that, we are going to, that if we're not supporting it, that would be a bad thing. So I'd say, while it's not ideal, it's at this point better than nothing, so we should probably support it.
Thank you. Now I'm going to take the point there and I'll come back to Tom.
I think if we're not to include the Americans, then we're actually putting some of our most vulnerable students in a very difficult position, because students who do have disabilities or students who are from low-income backgrounds will then be forced to be subject to some type of test as to whether their needs are bad enough or to a certain extent for them to be able to then drive in. And I think it's really unfair to put vulnerable groups of people at an even harder difficulty and to not include a motion.
Thank you, Tom.
So I think support of something with caveats is possible. Critical support of something is possible. It's how the university is planning to respond to this. And when I was talking with kind of people at the Sustainability Department of the Estates team about this, when I talked with people at the County Council about this, the City Council, excuse me, about this, they're like support from us in any form would be better than no support at all in trying to push this through. So I still think the amended motion is a very, very good thing to try and pass.
Thank you.
So this is just a question. Could you reread the amendment just for the wording?
So I will now reread both of the amendments. So we added by a friendly amendment to Council Resolves, mandate the Vice President, Charities and Community to assess whether the ZEZ is likely to disproportionately harm low-income students, to consider whether anything can be done to remedy this, and to include this in the consultation response. Then the amendment we discussed and voted on and included is to mandate the Vice President, Charities and Community to ask the City Council to make exemptions for students moving in and out at the beginning and end of term as part of the SU's consultation response. Not seeing any further points from the floor, so I think we're well versed in the arguments, so I think we're going to move straight to a vote on this motion. So 1 to vote in favour of the motion, 2 to vote against the motion, and 0 to abstain. Voting will close in 3, 2, 1. Wait. I will wait another few seconds, but then we are going to have to press on. 3, 2, 1. Closed. And the motion passes with 49 votes in favour, 6 votes against, and 6 abstentions. So we now move on to the third item of debate. At this point, I'm also going to highlight that there are 2 motions below the line, which means that we shall not discuss them unless Council asks to bring them above the line. It's a motion to ratify the appointment of the new electoral appeals officer and a motion to ratify the appointment of some divisional board reps who sit as our representatives on the boards of the academic divisions of the university. If anyone wants to move those above the line, you can do so by proposing a procedural motion at any time before we complete the motions. Now, item number 3, to ask the University Counselling Service to make peer support training more flexible. Would anybody like to see any discussion or debate at all on this motion? Is there any opposition to this motion? None seen, so the motion passes. Motion number 4, RAG annual charities. Would anybody like to discuss or debate this motion at all? Yes, so I'm going to invite a short speech of proposition, maximum 90 seconds, from the proposers of the motion.
Hi, I'm Tamika, Corpus/RAGPres, use she, her pronouns. So essentially every year RAG has to elect 4 charities. In the past it's always been 2 local and 2 national/international ones. And that's essentially what this motion is doing. A couple of the important changes that have happened is a few definitions are changing. delisting ones that are political to delisting ones which are party political, and also choosing to exclude charities which have received RAG funding in the past academic year. We essentially had a massive discussion about it, and it was a big point within the RAG committee of making sure that local charities don't become dependent on RAG funding, because one year it may not come through and we don't want them to feel like they are unable to operate without that funding. So that's why we've made the decision so that they can't become reliant, essentially.
Thank you. Are there any short factual questions on this motion? Yes, take a question from Dave.
Dave Rogers, Merton College, Ealing. So it's a question about something that's hidden, I think, in the selection process, since you've said, presumably, I think, with the intention of making sure that the SU isn't taking any sort of a stance on religious issues or not supporting charities with a religious element. My query with that is not that I want the SU to take a stance on religion, I want it to stay expressly neutral, but more, I think the wording of the motion would, to me, suggest that actually the SU should only support charities which are entirely secular rather than charities where people working in it are religious but they're not doing anything specifically religious per se. And I'm just wondering if that distinction would both potentially contravene some things in the European Convention on Human Rights and more relevantly to that, whether it has the unintended I think, unintentional effect of discriminating against charities that have religious people in it. But
I'm going to cut your question short there.
I think actually in the wording of the annex that you're looking at, it is actually ones which operate with a religious bias, not ones that are just run by a religious organisation. So if they are just receiving funding from it, that doesn't make them delisted. It just means that ones which are actually having a sort of religious tone to everything they do will be delisted.
Thank you. Any further questions? None seen. Is there any opposition to this motion? We have opposition to this motion, so I'm going to invite a short speech of opposition of up to 90 seconds.
Okay, this isn't opposition to the entire motion, this is opposition to one particular section, which is the removal of us being able to ballot for charities that have previously received funding in the previous year. Opposition is quite a forceful word. I'm actually just trying to open it out to try and understand what the students think about this, in particular in relation to, for example, RAG. So RAG has given to OSARC, for example, for a number of years consecutively. We, as a SU, rely quite heavily on a lot of their services and a lot of their training. So, to clarify, OSARC is the Oxford Sexual Assault and Rape Crisis Centre. They are a charity that the university also uses quite heavily. If we were to maybe stop having the option of continually funding them, I don't know what that would mean for the amount of services that we would be able to access. They are quite heavily reliant on us, and they do build up a relationship with us based on the fact that we consistently give money to them. So that's my opposition, but it's not a strong opposition, it's more of a, what do people think about that?
Right, so we're now going to move to debate. Before we do that, I'm going to remind people that there will be pizza and drinks after the meeting. So please stay. But yes, okay, point of debate on the motion of up to 1 minute. I can't see anyone who wants to say anything. So this is your opportunity to say something about the motion.
Comments about what I think, what I said.
Oh, hang on.
Yes, over there.
Hi, Dr. Lane out of Mansfield College. I think that is an amazing point because usually when we look at charity, we think about it as just as giving, but the organizations that we partner with do provide significant services to our communities, especially things like Ozark. So even in the situation, I wonder maybe if it's thinking about why we use RAG as the primary funding for these organizations, and maybe that is the solution of figuring out how to come up with a sustainable way to fund these organizations otherwise. But I think it is worth continuing to debate, so anybody else has any opinion, that would be great. I'd like to hear it.
I'm looking for points. I'm aware that an amendment is currently being drafted. So I'm not inclined to move to vote immediately. So if you do want to say anything, please put your hands up. Yeah, take one now.
Tom Terrace Committee here. So I helped Tanika and others write this motion. I included the thing about delisting. What I was planning to do tonight, after hearing criticisms of particularly this delisting clause, was sort of scope out the attitude in the room, and then Tanika and I would submit a friendly amendment to get rid of this, if that was where the conversation was going. What I could do is submit an amendment saying, I could submit like an amendment. Tanika could not accept it as friendly. We could have a vote. We could have a straw poll. What do you want to do? Let's have a straw poll. Chair, can we have a straw poll?
Yes. What is the straw poll going to be on?
The straw poll is going to be on. Do we want to delist the 2016-17 national charities, that is OSARC, Oxford Homeless Pathways, or Homeless Attitude? Do we want to delist the 2016-17 annual charities, the local ones of which are OSARC and Oxford Homeless Pathways, the national ones of which are Against Malaria Foundation and EP Africa? So do we want to say that those four charities cannot be elected this time, or do we want to say that they can be elected this time, for this coming year?
Okay, so we are going to take a non-binding vote on this, which does not bind council anyway. So one, to state that you wish to continue delisting. So one in favour of delisting and two against delisting and zero to abstain. Is voting open yet? We're waiting. It's fine. Right, let's do a poll by show of hands.
Did you say delist or relist?
So to delist. So
take off the list or put it back on?
to take off the list. So delist, take off the list. Those in favour of delisting the 2016-17 charities, please raise your hands. Those against delisting the 2016-17 charities, please raise your hands. I'm going to.
So the amendment will just be to get rid of that.
Going to continue to wait for the draft of this amendment. Whilst we're waiting for this amendment to be drafted, would anyone like to say anything? We've got some points over here. I think we have points over here? No. Yes, point there.
Conleth Burns, New College, Enos. I was just wondering if there's a distinction to be between local charities and national charities. Maybe there's like sort of like those are we consider the charity that we support, but there might be a distinction. There should be national charities who should be comprehensive enough if they're not just directly impacted on institutions. So that's only like a thought to put out there. Like we're thinking of bringing forward more formal amendments next.
Last year to discourage.
Can we just make that the point now?
Yeah.
Just Tom here.
I'm really sorry, but it's Tom here in Charity Media. So what we did last year to try, because there is a problem, and it's probably a more long-term problem for the one we were trying to kind of quite politely fix here, was that we don't want any charity to become dependent on what is essentially a lottery. So what we did last year is some sort of a scheme where it was harder to be shortlisted as a charity if you'd been nominated before. If there is no opposition now, I will include in this amendment that we just do that like we did last year. Make it harder to shortlist charities that have been nominated recently in the past.
Take a point there, yeah.
Just to say that, so we were talking about OSAR in particular as an example, if that was to be implemented, that was implemented last year, it still got elected to be the charity, so it doesn't necessarily make an impact. You know, it's not going to sort of reduce the amount of student voice that people have. If people overwhelmingly still elect that, then it's not going to be sort of taken off. But still should be fairish.
Yes.
Just to piggyback on this point from various angles, I think it's also a good midway between allowing us to continue to support charities that have been supported in the past, but also not then being detrimental to new charities or other local charities that maybe haven't had the spotlight, that haven't had the support in the year before. Because if it ends up being two charities that have that monopoly, that every year we get to the same two, that could have a detrimental impact on other charities within the local area. So I think this is a good midway between that one.
I am going to try to encourage Council to remain correct. We have an amendment to append to Resolves 5, which you can see up on the screen behind me. So this is to add to the end of it, with the additional caveat that the 2016-17 charities will not be delisted, and amending the regulations accordingly. And restating last year's penalisation procedures for previously recently listed charities. Is there any opposition to this amendment? None seen. The amendment is taken as friendly. The amendment becomes part of the motion. Is there any opposition to the motion? None seen, and so the motion passes. We now move past. No one has brought above the line the motions 5 and 6, so they shall pass. And we move on to the first item for debate, the Council review. I will try to keep it as short as possible. I'm presenting the item, so the Chair will pass to Jim.
Can you give a short summary, sir?
Yes, so as you're aware, we've been...
Oh, sorry.
As you're aware, we've been conducting a council review this term, and I thought it would be helpful to go over what we're planning to do, some of the things we're planning to do as a result of that. So, you're telling us that you want more informality in council and better explanation of procedures. I've tried to do this meeting, although perhaps I haven't been as successful as I might have been. You want to help council members communicate with each other more. So this might, for example, involve setting up a Facebook group of council members that you could be part of. It might involve, it involves things like we're doing pizza and drinks after this event, trying to give you more opportunities to socialise with each other, and potentially running events in the SU building, which you'll be welcome to come along to. I would emphasise that none of these things would be compulsory, but based on the feedback we've had, that people often feel they don't know each other in council, and that they'd like to work more with our common rooms. These are the kinds of ideas we would be considering to bring back to council next term. Finally, again, bringing a motion to council can be a bit unclear and can be difficult. We try to make the procedure as clear as possible, but there are all suggestions that the steering committee, who oversee the forming of the agenda, could play a bigger role in helping ideas develop. And I think I also get a sense that actually there is a desire for council to be a space where you can bring your ideas and talk about the strategy of the SU. What do you guys all think of this?
Do we have any points from the floor? None seen, are we sure? Okay. Then
You can feed back to me afterwards.
Yeah, you can always email the chair at oxfordsu.org.uk.
Okay, second item of debate. Should a CO2 levy on students be introduced? I'm going to invite Dane to give a speech of maximum 1 minute to introduce this item for debate.
Okay, thanks, Sam. So basically my idea is, given what we have has worked out that a charity called, I've already called it Cleaner, it's actually Cooler, so apologies for that, could offset a ton of carbon for about £1, 6 pence, using an up until estimate for how much emissions we get per student and adding in the indirect ones. We can offset the annual emissions of every student in Oxford for about £5.50 per student. And so the questions I'm throwing out for us to debate, discuss, and that I draft into a motion next term are, should we be in support of putting in a levy on students? If so, how do we want to implement this? Should it be an opt-out levy? Should it be a compulsory levy? And also there's the question of, is £5.50 about the right sort of rate or not? So I'm going to open the floor for discussion now.
Are there any points? on this item for debate? Would anybody like to express any opinions at all? Yes, Dan?
Ed Love St John's, Ian. I suppose whether this value is sufficient or not depends on how it's calculated and what there is behind that, and also how reliable the calculations are. And the only other thing is that I would say that at St John's we have opt-out charity levies on students, and so I would argue that seems the fairest way to do that. It remains anonymous and not handled directly by the committee, so that students do not need to feel awkward about opting out. That motivation went up at the end, but I'm actually finished.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to say anything on this item for debate? Yes, one point there.
Pebble Camp, Mansfield, this is a very important topic, and I would like to suggest that maybe we can talk about it next term, because I think it's a conversation worth having, but maybe not at this time.
Yeah, fair. Does anyone else have anything they particularly want to say now? I mean, it's here on the agenda. Someone could bring it back again next term, but I'm going to give people an opportunity to say things now. 1 point. I will take maximum 2 more points after this.
Scotland Brown Community College, we discussed this at our JCR meeting, and they were really supportive of the idea of us becoming more responsible with sustainability.
Thank you. That seems to be everything. So, was there 1 point there?
Keep it to one. Have you no priorities here? I mean, just paying a carbon tax, really, which is what this is not. I mean, that's just like companies avoiding the whole thing altogether. I mean, if you put any kind of pressure onto universities to start divesting or actually making the place a bit greener, that would be a much better kind of initiative. And also, you're just going to end up doubly taxing students who pay for lots of levies through the university to begin with. Well, like the university is going to end up paying carbon tax in the next couple of years as governance changes. So you're just charging students twice.
Can you have a name, college, and pronouns, please?
Sorry, yeah, Michael, the St Edmund Hall MCR.
Thank you. Don't think we've got much to wrap this on which to wrap this up now, so I'm going to conclude the item there. Any other business? There are pizza and drinks after the event, and you can also talk to all the vice presidents and vice presidents about their job if you're interested in running for it next year. Thank you all for coming to council, and until next term, this is it.